Hi again, everyone, and welcome to Badger Breakdown. I'm Mike Lucas from UWBadgers.com. I'm joined by the voice of the Badgers, Matt Lepay. It's hard for me to measure momentum, and it's even more difficult for me to try to figure out how a team can sustain momentum. But you think back 2 weeks ago, the Badgers had all the momentum in the world and were playing the best football in the Big Ten. Can they sustain?
Well, they needed the bye week desperately, too. That's what was different about this, because they were rolling, but they were also beat up. You know, you look at the number of starters who either didn't play at all or were hurt during the course of the game against Iowa. That week off was critical for this team. But I think they can sustain the momentum knowing what prize could be there for them. I mean, you know, we can sit here and all day and talk about tiebreakers and all of that, but one thing that you do know, if these guys can take care of their business the rest of the way, they're going to get a trophy. You know, now they may be one of two or three, but they'll be one of them. So that's the one thing that I think that can sustain this momentum. If you're looking just from an intangible perspective here, that can go a long way in sustaining momentum.
And I'm sure the coaches have already made them aware of what can happen if you play sloppy football on the road against an opponent, an underdog opponent, like a Purdue. It happened last year to Ohio State. The Buckeyes were number 7 in the country, turned over the football, got beat.
Yeah, and Ryan Kerrigan was one of the big reasons why Ohio State turned it over. Here we go again. If you're Wisconsin, you're playing against a team with a very, very good defensive end. You dealt with it with Adrian Claiborne, Cameron Hayward of Ohio State. Teams who play Wisconsin deal with that with J.J. Watt. Ryan Kerrigan was the main disruptor in Purdue's upset of Ohio State a year ago. He really is, and I know Brett Bielema has talked about it. Of all the defensive linemen that they face, you can make an argument that Kerrigan's the best one of the bunch.
I think it's a great matchup from the perspective you have Purdue's front 7 and their blitz package, and they've heated up quarterbacks all season long. Then you have the Wisconsin offensive line that's done a tremendous job protecting Scott Tolzien.
And that's been the big thing here. You know, this Wisconsin team put up really good numbers last year, but the coaches from offensive coordinator Paul Chryst to Brett, they said, okay, that's great what you did, but now let's see what you do against the best of the best in terms of defensive teams. And you know, if you put 31 on the board against Ohio State, 31 more against Iowa, that says a lot about your offense as a whole, and especially this offensive line, the way it's protected the quarterback.
I think we're all pulling for number 1. That would be Nick Toon, who's battled through injuries throughout the season. It would be great to get Toon back on track.
It's been frustrating for him. You know, in talking with him earlier on this week, it's been tough. He's missed 4 of the 8 games. I mean, he wants to be out there. Everybody knows, and we've talked about it before, the kind of training camp that he had. He was electric. And if you could just get that type of player back, you know, again, it may take a little time for him to get back into game rhythm, but you look at this team, what it's done without having its best wide receiver for half the season says a lot about everybody else in this offensive group. And if you can get a healthy Nick Toon back with that group, then a very good offense becomes that much better.
For Matt Lepay, I'm Mike Lucas. Thanks for watching UWBadgers.com.